Hello, in this video I want to answer the question, should Donald Trump be compared to Hitler? Okay, now let me put it this way. If the point of the comparison is to say that they are equally evil or that they will produce an equal amount of harm, then I would disagree with the comparison. But if the point of the comparison is simply to make us think between the parallels between the Weimar Republic and the United States today, then I do think it is actually a good comparison. And this famous painting actually portrays the emotion of many people that lived in the Weimar Republic, and I actually do think that many Americans today feel exactly like this guy on the left, whether you are like pro-Trump or against him. I think, yeah, many people feel like there is something wrong with American society today. And in many ways, I simply have to agree that America does resemble the Weimar Republic. So there is a crisis of meaning. Many historians also point out uh, this fact that after the fall of the German monarchy, after the Kaiser abdicated, democracy was still a new system, and many people felt like humanity is actually in the search of a new system. Also, sexual promiscuity, drugs, prostitution, moral decadence, it was all on the rise in the Weimar Republic. In a similar way, one can point out to the ultra liberal societies in the West. Slavoj Žižek actually famously joked that the last taboo in Western liberal societies when it comes to sex is just being in a happy monogamous marriage and having a lot of children. But yeah, so other parallels, inflation happened to be a problem in both societies. Yeah, simply wages were not adjusted with prices rising, which is also today a big problem in America. And political polarization was also a huge problem. World, geopolitically speaking, was also very unstable with the Japanese aggression, with Mussolini attacking Ethiopia and stuff like that. And in a weird historical parallel, Russia today is trying to do something like the Comintern back in the day, but this time it is actually a right-wing state and not a leftist state, trying to unite far-right political parties and somehow make them actually make them do things that benefit Russia, or at least create division in their own countries in a similar way in which Stalin used communist parties, for example, in France, in order to weaken France when France was fighting a war with Hitler. Many French communists deserted because of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact during Hitler's conquest of France. But okay, there are also obviously like many differences, both between the United States today and between Trump and Hitler. For example, the United States did not lose a huge war. They do not have to pay reparations to anybody. They did not lose 13% of their territory, obviously. But okay, in many aspects, and now I have to be careful how I put this in order to not just be cancelled by all sides of the political spectrum at once. If you look at Hitler's life before he came to power, now after he came to power, immediately he starts doing horrible stuff. Like, he leaves the League of Nations, very soon he starts to attack countries, he puts ultra racist laws in place, like this idea that only people with pure blood have human rights. Also, rape laws in Nazi Germany were pretty horrible. So yeah, in that aspect, yeah, I think that as soon as Hitler took power, he just started to do evil. But if you look at his life before he came to power, I can very easily see why so many people voted for him. And actually, in fact, I can much more easily see myself, if I were a young German man in the 1920s, I could much more easily see myself voting for Hitler back then than for Trump today. Let me explain why. Hitler's story prior to him taking power was actually much more inspiring and much more resembled the heroic journey. So Hitler volunteered to serve in a war and he almost died at multiple times. He was also blinded by poisonous gas. That kind of made him also popular with the German public. The fact that he was a war hero, that he volunteered, that he almost died, that he even was blinded for a long time. Okay, Trump did survive an assassination attempt, but yeah, he dodged military service. He simply doesn't have such a cool, inspiring story that in his youth he served, actually volunteered to fight in a war. On the contrary, he dodged military service. Okay, both of them actually survived assassination attempts. Hitler survived 42 of them. Then the beer hall coup also made Hitler very popular. People often forget that after Hitler left prison, it was actually beneficial for him, the fact that he served in a prison. That made him look like anti-establishment. That also, in eyes of the many people, that made him look like a hero, because people hated the liberal government that caused hyperinflation in 1923. The same government, if we are talking about Social Democrats, that signed the Treaty of Versailles. So by serving in prison, Hitler actually made it very clear, I am against these guys, against this corrupt, incompetent government. So yeah, and Hitler also actually took a bullet in the leg during the beer hall coup, and then he fled, but he was in the first ranks with his men trying to do a coup. And yeah, the coup actually started in a beer hall. Hitler waited for guys to get a bit drunk, and then he started his speech by firing a pistol into the air. Now, I guess if we are drawing parallels between the Weimar and America today, then January 6th would be something like a beer hall coup, an unsuccessful attempt by the right-wing elements to gain power in a very actually chaotic and disorganized way that kind of happened spontaneously and ultimately led to nothing important. It just led to some people losing their life. But on a symbolic level, both events are extremely important. In the United States, in the United States it is very important because the January 6th was endorsed by the president. And honestly, I can't remember any other US president that endorsed a violent coup against his political opposition. Yeah, definitely not in modern history. But yeah, again, like the point of this video is not to portray Hitler in a good light, but again, I do think there is something honorable about Hitler actually leading the coup himself and taking a bullet to the leg. So again, even in this aspect, again, if I were a German voter, I would kind of see this as a a reason to vote for Hitler. While Trump, on the other hand, just used his followers to incite them to do violence, but he himself just stayed at home, and decided not to risk his life. So again, like Hitler embodied much more this idea of a masculine man, of a man of action that actually goes out and risks his life for the higher cause. And okay, obviously there are many important differences between Hitler and Trump. For example, Hitler is much more racist. Hitler, in fact, is obsessed with race, and that is his #1 issue. So a better comparison, I would actually agree, would be between Trump and, let's say, Mussolini. or Trump and Pinochet. But again, I do think that the Weimar society, I do think that there are some really weird parallels between the United States and Weimar. And also, well, why I think that this comparison is actually very objective, because if you think about it, then who would be the far leftist violent elements? They would be Stalinists. And yeah, that doesn't make the far left good, or that doesn't portray them in a good light. Now, who exactly would be the Stalinists today, I'm not sure, but we can point out some far left ideologies. For example, the people that believe that it is perfectly okay for Hamas to kill Jewish women and children and civilians and prisoners of war. Well, those people kind of remind me of Stalinists coming with these weird constructs. Like Michael Bullray, in his book about the Third Reich, actually brings us an interview with a young Stalinist from the late 1930s, where he was asked, I believe, in France by some liberal reporters, like, how do you comment on the Great Purges? Like, do you think that it is a problem that Stalin is killing so many communists? And the young fanatical communist answered, no, I actually think that Stalin should be killing more. That is my only critique of Stalin. He should be killing more. Yeah, so leftists can also do mental gymnastics and make themselves believe some pretty harmful stuff. And yeah, I also actually agree with this sentiment that Democratic politicians like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden should not be calling Trump a fascist, or really, yeah, pointing out these parallels too much, because that is very divisive and is just going to lead to people like saying that they're also inciting political violence. And I do understand why somebody would say such a thing. So I actually think that only like political analysts, historians, YouTubers should be focusing on making these parallels. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to just finish with an old wisdom that says that history never really repeats itself, it just rhymes. So, one other important difference. Hitler was open about the fact that he was in favor of wealth redistribution in some areas of German life, while Trump really isn't. But that's also because, well, in America, especially on the right side of the political spectrum, wealth redistribution is seen very negatively, while in Europe, most right-wing parties also promise you some kind of wealth redistribution, because that's simply a very popular position, like on all sides of the political spectrum. There is also a split between the far left and the moderate left. Something like that was present in Weimar Germany with the Social Democrats and Communists, and that split also ended up helping Hitler. So one could point out to such a split helping Trump both in 2016 and maybe maybe right now even. But yeah, all in all, I don't think that Trump will start World War III, or that he is identical to Hitler. But yeah, that's not the point of historical comparison. The point is to try and find similarities and to learn something from history, and not to say that exactly the same thing will happen 75 years later in a society that's completely different. Yeah, because that shouldn't be a point of a good historical comparison. Okay, if you like this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more videos like this.